you want another? Okay.
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 Hi. So can you tell me like the general things about you, like your name and your job?
Sure. So I'm Terry Voorhees, and my job is I am an American Sign Language teacher. And what mostly the people that I work with is I teach parents how to sign with their babies, and it's mostly in the hearing community. And then I also teach many kids with special needs, but again, also in the hearing community.
Okay. So we're going to start with the personal questions.
Okay.
So the first question is, how did you become associated with learning and teaching sign?
Okay, so when Robert was born, and so Robert is my oldest son, he's almost 18, and when he was born, I found out that he had Down syndrome. Knowing nothing about Down syndrome, one of the things I found out was that he would be delayed in his verbal speech, and so we were really, really lucky because he started getting speech services when he was around 6 months old, and they were the ones who encouraged me to start using sign language. And I was not aware at all that you would use sign language with people who were hearing. And so when I started using it with him, I started when he was 6 months old, but when he was 2.5, he turned around to me and he requested more music. So he was signing and communicating with me and even putting 2-word sentences together, which was pretty amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you remember the moment you decided to learn sign? What was like the time like that helped you make that decision?
So again, it was going into this early intervention center. It's called Community Gate Path. And all of the kids there were babies with special needs, and many of them had no way of communicating verbally. And I was watching all of the teachers with them and using really basic signs, so it wasn't even anything that I'd have to go learn a whole new language and immerse myself in it. I could just use very simple signs, but I could start communicating with them. And so when I saw that in action, when I saw some of the older kids signing back, I was absolutely hooked and completely motivated to learn all I could about sign language.
That's great. So how has American Sign Language impacted your life and your family? That's basically what you already said.
Yeah, it has been an absolute lifesaver. And my knowing it, I've been able to help a lot of other people in the special needs community because there is, it's from a long time ago, but there's still this idea out there that that's if you sign with your baby, you might delay their verbal development. And there's all the research that's been done. It's absolutely not true. But in the past, that people thought, well, if you sign with them, they'll only want to sign. They won't be motivated to speak. But again, not true at all. But when I had Robert go into the public school system, I did have a speech therapist. So this was when he was 3 years old. And I had a speech therapist tell me to stop signing with him because she wanted to be able to work on his verbal development. So here she was going to have me give up my only way of communicating back and forth with him. That's crazy. That's, and so I luckily didn't follow her advice, but that was really what made me commit to starting to teach sign to children, because I didn't want anyone else to go through that and actually stop signing when you're communicating with your kid. So that was a huge changing moment in my life. And then seeing again when I used it with Robert, and then again when I used it with Max, seeing how I could communicate with my kids before they could speak, and I cut down on all those frustrating behaviors. They could let me know what they wanted, if they wanted to eat or if they wanted to drink. I remember Robert one time, I was throwing food at him, trying to figure out what was wrong, and he was sleepy. And he could just look at me and he let me know that he was sleepy, and he just wanted a nap. That was all he wanted. And so once I had that communication going back and forth, it was just wonderful.
It was so much easier to communicate.
Yeah.
My next question is, Has there been any obstacles in the past to learning or teaching sign language?
The obstacles are the people out there that have that impression or that old idea that that signing is going to delay the verbal language. So you still have people that will say, "Oh, it's not gonna it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work." I get that when I'm teaching these babies, people will tell me it doesn't work, and it's those old ideas. But if you're committed to it and you just keep working with your baby, it works, and it's amazing when you see it in action. But you will have these people out there that will just kind of poo-poo it and think, it's either you're crazy or it's not going to work.
My last question in the personal questions is, what is your favorite thing about sign language?
I love that you're using your hands, and it's something where when you are signing, you kind of have to drop everything. I can't be over here texting on my phone. I can't be on the computer. I have to be kind of present and in the moment and communicating. And I love that aspect of it, because I feel like I can really connect with who I'm talking to when I'm signing. And just even when you start with the sign, immediately you grab people's attention, because they kind of focus on what are you doing with your hands? What are you going to do next? And so I love just the engaging back and forth with people. And I do feel like I feel a much stronger connection when I'm signing versus just speaking.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So now I'm going to go on to the opinionated questions. So this is going to help a lot of my Genius project. So the first question is, do you think it's important for people to learn this specific language? Why or why not?
Mine are purely selfish reasons.
Yeah, I know that.
But I would love for people to be exposed to sign language, because especially in the elementary schools, there are so many kids in the special education program that greatly benefit from sign language, and the more people around them in the general ed population that also know a little bit of sign, they can be forming friendships with the kids. And so when I had Robert over at Ocean Shore, I would teach the general ed kids how to sign. So then when they went to play out on the playground, they could look at one another and ask each other, do you want to play? Do you want to swing? And they would be able to talk to each other. And so I felt like it really helped inclusion, which has been my passion. So I would love to see everybody and again, there's just some simple, basic signs that you can do that will.
Yeah. Do you think that people in important professions should learn a few signs in order to understand their clients/patients? So, for example, should a doctor learn a few signs for the body, temperature, and emotion to understand their patients in order to give them better care?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, with Robert, when we would go into the doctor, and we also teach when we're teaching the babies, the sign for hurt is you just twist, you just point, and you kind of twist. And if you can teach your baby how to show where the pain is, it just would help the doctor so much more. So there's little signs that again, the doctor, if they just had a general knowledge of it, it would greatly help them communicate. And again, this is with anybody that doesn't have clear verbal speech. Anybody. Yeah, and think about ambulance, fire, all of those people. Again, if they had just a very basic, are you okay? Are you sick? And just to be able to get to the bottom of what's going on quickly.
My next question is, do you think that the deaf community has limitations when it comes to doing basic tasks in everyday life? Why or why not?
I don't think so. I think we put the limitations on them. I think we have lower, I think a lot of people have lower expectations where I think, people in the deaf community are amazing. And I know one of the questions is going to be about, the other senses being heightened. People they compensate, so if there's a deficit in one area, they'll just have a greater strength in another. So I really think that for any of the limitations, it's things that we in the general population put on them.
Like difference isn't really an obstacle. Like they can find a different way to do different things.
Right.
So my last question in this part is, in your opinion, what do deaf people or people who use their hands to express themselves excel at more than people who can hear? So like you said before, as in like paying more attention to the
I was just going to say probably in the communication. The communication is they're probably much better listeners. And again, that focus to detail, I think would come through strong. I haven't really thought though much about like what exactly, like what profession or that they would excel at more. But again, I just think I do like what I've noticed is just that a lot more connecting and communicating that's going on.
So now I'm going to go into the factual questions, just like the kind of questions that some of my friends ask who are not aware of the deaf community or sign language.
Cool.
So the first question is there other groups of people other than the deaf community who use sign and to express themselves?
So again, what I have found is, and again, people in the special needs community aren't necessarily aware, but anybody who is struggling verbally. So I have found so many kids within the autism spectrum that benefit greatly from using sign. Robert, who was in the Down syndrome community, he and many of his peers I've taught sign language to, and it really, really helps. Robert's 18 and he does speak quite a bit, but there's still times where I'm not quite sure what he's saying, and he can finger spell for me, so I know what he's saying. So I just think anybody that is struggling verbally or their verbal skills aren't completely honed yet can benefit from sign language. The baby population that I teach, we have babies signing as early as 8 months, where a baby can't speak until they're around 12 months. So you get like a 4-month head start on communicating with them and letting them communicate to you. So there's so many people that would, again, benefit from knowing a little bit of sign.
Another one is, so how do people become deaf? So they have an illness or something happen to them when they're born?
Yeah, so that's, my